I've taken lives. And I got worse, I got clever. Manipulated people into taking their own.
Motherfucker.
After a 6-episode long streak of peak fiction, quite possibly the longest one in the show's history, Sanchez vs. The Doctor is the very first episode of season 10 where I have a less than, let's say, overwhelmingly positive take on. I'm not saying it's bad by any means, there's some great stuff in there, but to best understand my take I need to clarify two things. Number one, most of my disappointment merely comes from my own expectation being so high they probably bumped into the TARDIS. Number two, as I said in my Stitch vs. Awkward review, which also happens to be another episode that many seem to like more than I did, if I had to choose between storytelling being epic, emotionally touching or funny, I would probably pick funny as the last option. Not because I hate fun, but because I love some storytelling that sticks with me beyond a quick laugh. And in this battle, they did have some epicness, but they decided to be more small and silly haha as a whole, which does work for a galactic street ball of sorts. Our origination from body to body are some of the most unique things both Rick and Doctor bring as characters, likewise for being able to team up with multiple versions themselves, for their darker sides fueled by heavy psychological burdens, all things that is and almost none of that shows up into the fight. I can't help but feel like they were holding themselves back a bit, especially after their aforementioned 6-episode long streak of peak. It's probably for budgetary reasons and conserving energy for future episodes, so let's see. The thing about this episode is that it has all the elements that make season 10 a really good season, be it solid breakdowns, amazing 3D backgrounds, great animation, banging musical track, character-driven moments, an actual narrative for the fight, and so forth. But I don't think it has that extra stuff that makes season 10 a great season, such as various emotional beats, scale, outstanding voice acting for both parties, and general creativity. Sorry this sounds like an extremely long intro, so let's get into the actual episode now. I feel like Rick's breakdown is good. Like, at times it feels as if it's the abridged version of what I imagine a season 10 breakdown to be like, but they hit all the Hallmark jokes and memes of the character, go quite a bit into his trauma and nihilistic worldview, his gadgets, crazy adventures Morty. I mean, it does the job, I feel like it works, but I don't personally think it does much beyond working. Then again, I'm not a Rick and Morty fan, so I'm probably not the best qualified person to say that. The editing is really good though, and the background music is fantastic. Speaking of, I think the Doctor's breakdown is pretty much perfect. I'm impressed they managed to squeeze 60 years of history into 7 minutes, and somehow managed to hit all the major character notes, be it old or new, simple or complex, or amusing or intense. In fact, I believe the overall quality of the breakdowns kinda manages to foreshadow how much effort I personally think was put into respective characterization of the battle. So let's get into that. The battle starts with the space cruiser bumping into the TARDIS off-screen, with Morty being apologetic while Rick actually shifts the blame to Time Lords not having rear view mirrors. Now, Rick being aware of Doctor Who is canonically accurate, and this might seem like a one-off joke, but it's actually foreshadowing of him knowing enough about Time Lords to later shoot both arts and knowing he has to go for the feather blow during the regeneration process, hence why the latter tells Doc to hurry up with the glowy thingy. So good on Rick for doing his homework, even if it doesn't save his life. I call it the Discord method. Anyway, the Doctor forgives them both for the accident and flies off, except Rick does not take it lightly as he sees that as the Doctor ignoring him. How dare he? I've seen many say that Rick not only being the aggressor in this fight but starting a cosmic chase because of stupid small ordeal are both very accurate to him, so hey, great to know. Brent Williams' performance as Rick, from what I can tell, is overall pretty damn good, but it kinda crumbles at the end. But Elliot Crossley's performance as David Tennant's Doctor not only is great from start to finish and near identical to Tennant, it also marks the second ever officially confirmed voice actor reprisal from a non-Rooster Teeth property, since he voiced Tennant's Doctor beforehand, which is really cool. The chase scene just as the music does, with the TARDIS starting to dematerialize into the space-time continuum before Rick pulls the "oh no you don't" hook, giving us a Doctor Who intro-esque scene as the TARDIS flows time stream and Rick tells the ship to keep Morty safe. Aww. Before he jumps into the time vortex unprotected, which, to my memory as a former Whovian, I'm pretty sure this would have disintegrated him. But I can excuse it for animation's sake. I'll just think this is because Rick made a timey-wimey-proof lab coat or something. And while I did say I would like to see more of the Doctor's edge, that doesn't mean I dislike the small charming moments he has, such as him getting worried secret appears TARDIS or being fascinated by the screaming sun. Really contrasting his appreciative nature of the wonders brought by the cosmos, with Rick's uncaring nature towards pretty much everything, which would have been nice to see in a deeper bit of dialogue that would actually make Doc calling Rick a nihilist knowing-all later feel like it comes from somewhere outside of our knowledge of the character. Imagine if Cole called Alex a vermin without a ladder first trying to absorb people, doing so successfully, then called them vermin afterwards. It would feel a bit complete, wouldn't it? I just really wish they focused on Rick being a dark reflection of the Doctor, on top of his complete ideological opposite, his nihilism to his optimism. The personalities do however clash in an entertaining fashion though, with the Doctor just having fun pretty much the whole time, and Rick just being an asshole the whole time. Doc comically pulls out a normal sized spoon while Rick pulls out the sword, yet the Doctor is the one who manages to fight like a proper first swordsman, while Rick doesn't care as he flies around and kicks him in the chest. Instead of going to a multiversal smackdown between portals that includes their cameo and Bill vs Discord like many, myself included, hoped, the two land in a multiversal arcade that includes all sorts of Easter eggs and cameos, including the scene I actually want to see come into play. Okay, I guess. We also see an entire pub filled with former combatants just chilling. Highlights include Ali and Jinx discussing gadgets, Darth Vader having a Batman level family party, while Obito sits with Alex, Blade and Mikasa actually having a silver conversation, Frieza using Megatron as a seat, and Dimitri, Dragonborn and Chosen Undead toasting in honor of Guts, whose corpse I imagine Dimitri now drags along all the time. Yeah, well overall a very fun and cute concept, and not too fun or one of the most emotionally compelling deaths in the show being a background gag. Say I'm taking this too seriously if you want, but I mean, they did it first. Doctor is much fonder about this place than I am, though, picking up his appreciation for little shops.
Oh, this place looks fun. Do they have a little shop? I like little shops.
Which, I mean, yeah, I get it. Then Doctor indeed likes little shops, but I don't get why he focus on that line so much. Like, we get a full close-up, leave a small break afterwards, and like, okay? But since we're already on topic of this multi-faced entity having one face throughout this fight, well, which Doctor is it? Cause both Ben Singer and the thumbnail says the 14th Doctor, aka the most recent one. But everything from the design, voice actor, appreciation for little shop, blinking advice, saying what's right, wibbly wobbly, allons-y, I don't wanna go, he's pretty much the 10th Doctor. Harking back to what I said a few reviews ago about the show using summarized version of these characters. He's 14th Doctor in name, brings a spoon to a sword fight like 12th, says fantastic like 9, brings up Venusian karate like 3rd, uses a Dimat gun like 4th, and he's the 10th in pretty much everything else. Another bit I really do like is when the two geniuses land in a basement full of weeping angels, prompting the Doctor to show actual fear for the first and only time in this whole fight, and it's not towards his opponent. Rick doesn't even know just how disrespected he's being behind his back right now. But that's nothing to pay compared to Doctor gaining the exact opposite advice to deal with the weeping angels, before skedaddling out of there. I wish the weeping angels got a spotlight in the breakdown, explaining how they work, instead of discussing the PP Boo Boo Man. That way this bit it's more even for people not familiar with Doctor Who, but there are so many details about the scene as a whole. On Rick's side of things, he actually puts a surprising amount of trust in Doctor's words. And when he is ultimately caught off guard and set back in time, which is what the weeping angels do to you by the way, he actually uses that extra time as prep time to fill up the TARDIS with Rick decoys. Smart. Meanwhile, the Doctor not stuttering or stammering once as he immediately comes out with a plan to make Rick fall into a fatal trap while thinking with his portal gun to escape, not only is a brilliant way of conveying just how fast his brain works, but it's also the closest thing the Doctor ever gets to attacking Rick, because that's right, he was really my favorite aspect of this entire episode. Throughout this whole fight he never lands a single attack, he just blocks, run away or outsmarts, using the opponent's flaws against him. I cannot put into words how perfectly they managed to capture this side of the Doctor. He is essentially the ultimate pacifist, hell, even his main weapon is just for disarming others. I love just as much how much he hesitates to use an actual weapon against Rick. It's a brief expression but it says so much. In fact, this one instance of compassion clashing with the warrior side of him is what gives Rick enough time to actually land 2 shots on his heart. This is the great character writing I love this season for. Before getting to the end, I love how the TARDIS is basically her own character in this, shuffling rooms around with some sass or making debris fall on Rick. I would like to see more ship cruiser vs TARDIS stuff besides the starting scene, but I also understand that it would have been a bigger storm fight than the ones the pilots are already engaged in, so it's fine. Rick proceeds to make the following joke.
It's fun to be the class clown till you get shot.
Which, be it due to my ignorance towards Rick and Morty, the English language, or probably the concept of sarcasm itself, I honestly don't really get it. You already insulted the Doctor quips before, so the class clown line seems redundant. Is the correlation meant to be between class and getting shot? Is this a school shooting joke? I sure hope it's not, I don't think it is, but I don't see it as anything clever either. I do however really like Rick not wanting to keep Morty waiting, or the formation detail or wanting the Doctor to hurry up and do the rejuvenation thingy so that he's vulnerable, which is why Rick doesn't shoot him right away and lets him do his speech, which prompted some less than a pleasing reaction online, and I don't think it could have been mitigated by having Rick be more explicit, or the Death Battle writers going to the Doctor having plot armor as an actual canonical power, aka banning probability so that the villains always let him finish his speech, but I digress. And I'm also not the biggest fan of them shoving the wibbly wobbly line into the Grand Doctor Who speech, but to balance that out, I adore how they managed to flip Tennant's Doctor saying I don't wanna go from meaning please I don't want to die to oh no I ain't done yet. Also, another brilliant scene because the regeneration process gets more explosive depending on how much a Time Lord wants to let go or not. So it's basically telling Rick to get ready for a metaphorical Big Bang, as regeneration energy shoots out of him with some amazing effects, causing the TARDIS to crumble. Don't worry, it's basically tradition. I would love to see this Doctor regenerate into either 11 or 15, but Rick is the one who actually changes body as he uses his xenomorph gun to emerge out of the Doctor in a way that really made me scared for a second. However, Doctor outsmarts Rick once again by using his own shot and portal energy to have the unexist gun hit him instead, causing Rick, his clones and all the wounds delivered to the Doctor to have never happened. As underwhelming as that might be to some, I can't help but appreciate the sheer irony of Rick starting all this because he thought he was being ignored by the Doctor, only to end up being forgotten by essentially everyone except the Doctor. Whoops. You might wonder why exactly Morty, aka Rick's grandson, doesn't get unexisted too, but apparently Morty is actually Rick Prime's grandson, so they are technically a universe apart from being directly related, but correct me in the comments if I got this wrong. With the bump having not happened because of Morty alone, the Doctor compliments the space cruiser as if Morty was the one to build it, the young Smith being unsure himself of that. Now this is the moment where I was expecting the Doctor to make him his new companion, or even just giving him a ride home since he's next to Saturn, but instead he just says he has a bright future ahead and vanishes. Now, I don't know if Morty knows how to canonically fly the ship back home, or if the AI could do that on its own, so at first it kinda came across as Doctor just leaving some lip service pleasantry without actually doing anything, you know, kinda like that one scene of Superman saying, "Thanks, my mom made it for me," to a kid after giving me his hat, without actually helping the kid getting down for the bridge he was stuck in. But then I made some research, and apparently in the show, Rick implanted Morty with an hologram projector in the latter's brain to give him instruction in case he dies, so hey, again, points for preparation. And that means there's not a ghost but an hologram that could guide Morty back home, if he trusts him, which I can see being an old episode, so nice ending. I didn't expect to like the end analysis so much, since I always thought this debate was pretty cut and dry, but I actually love how it's divided in subsection. It's a great way to go from whichever one bested the other to the next, like a natural evolution of the results charts. I would love to see more conclusion divided by section like this one. On to the themes. Wobalaba Allons-y is the first non-lyrical track in a long while, and it perfectly mixes together the Rick and Morty and Doctor Who themes respectively, in a very futuristic, epic, sci-fi opera way that admittedly made me even more hyped for the more epic version of this battle I had in mind before it dropped. But I also believe it fits just fine with the one we got, especially with the Rick and Morty-esque sound at the start and the Doctor Who choir at the end. Regarding the narrative theme of this fight, well, I was hoping to give it the optimism versus pessimism label I didn't give to Cole vs Alex, but since there wasn't much of an ideological clash or debate like I was hoping, instead a contrast between Rick's aggressive nature and usage of all kinds of weapons versus Doctor's pacifist approach and usage of small tools and tricks, I'm gonna paraphrase Stevie Trop's take on the matter and say that the main theme was force versus finesse. And that was Rick vs the Doctor. Yeah, essentially wished for there to be more of an edge to it, like I don't know, say Morty being caught in the crossfire, the Doctor being mortified, Rick somehow pins it all on him, some ideological banter, or the Doctor intervening and such. But what we got is still a pretty damn good rendition of this matchup, with some great elements here and there. I've even seen people interested in starting Doctor Who because of this episode, so hey, massive W. Yeah, I think I said all needs to be said for this episode. Nothing much in particular comes to mind. No sir, nothing in particular comes to mind. Okay, look, I'm actually hyped for Goku vs Superman 3. A new version with this season's standards of visuals, music, animation, character-driven moments, covering more extensive creative material for both, giving Clark actual limits, which is more a personal bonus for me, Cause as much as I love the character, I never liked the idea of seeing him as an unstoppable, omnipotent being. Too godlike for me. And the same animator as Colex, Gatsitri, King Yoda, Mighty, Thanosite, and much more? Take my money. I'm probably recording this bit before the sneak peek drops, so hey, you're probably looking at something awesome right now. That said, I'm gonna go drink some water, you do the same. I'm Uncle Quitton, and I hope I made your day slightly better.